The next 72 hours moved with a speed that only Mitchell Harrington's money and influence could command. Within 2 hours, Rebecca Porter was transferred from Mercy Hospital's charity ward to a private suite at Presbyterian Hospital. By evening, a team of pulmonary specialists had assembled to review her case. Mitchell didn't visit. He told himself it was because she was simply part of a transaction. But the truth he wouldn't admit, was that he couldn't bear to see what James might lose. It reminded him too much of his own mother. Instead, he received daily reports from Dr. Yamamoto. Day 1. Rebecca Porter, 42-year-old female, advanced pulmonary fibrosis. Oxygen saturation dangerously low. Beginning aggressive treatment, prognosis guarded. Day 2. Patient responding better than anticipated. Oxygen levels improving. Patient worried about medical bills, not understanding everything is already covered. Mitchell smiled at that. He'd opened an account in her name with instructions that it was never to be depleted, regardless of cost. Day 3. Significant improvement. Patient able to walk short distances without oxygen, adding to transplant list with expedited status. This woman has an extraordinary will to live. Her bond with her son is remarkable. Mitchell stared out his office windows. An extraordinary will to live. He tried to remember if anyone had ever described him that way. He couldn't. On the 4th day, James appeared at Mitchell's office again. "How's your mother?" Mitchell asked. "Better." James's face lit up. "She could really breathe yesterday." She laughed, Mr. Harrington. "I haven't heard her laugh like that in 2 years." Something in Mitchell's chest loosened. "Good, that's very good." "Thank you," James said seriously. "I know you didn't have to help us, but thank you anyway." Mitchell shifted uncomfortably. "You held up your end of the deal. Now it's your turn." "I know." James walked closer. "Can I see your hand again?" Mitchell extended both hands. The tremor in his left had worsened, and now his right was beginning to show the same symptoms. James took both hands and closed his eyes. The warmth came again, stronger this time, flooding up Mitchell's arms and into his chest. For a moment he felt the absence of pain, not just physical, but the deeper ache that had lived in his heart since his diagnosis. The fear, the rage, the crushing loneliness. "You're so angry," James said softly. "All the time. Your body is tired of being angry, Mr. Harrington. It wants to rest." "Anger is what built everything I have," Mitchell said, but his voice lacked conviction. "Maybe. But it's also what's killing you." James opened his eyes, tears streaming down his face. "I can feel it, like a fire burning everything up from the inside. You have to let it go." Mitchell pulled away and paced to the windows. "My father told me I was weak, from the time I was your age until the day he died. So I proved him wrong. I built something he never could. And when he was dying, do you know what he said to me?" James shook his head. He said, "You're still the same weak boy. You just learned to hide it better." Mitchell's voice cracked. "He died an hour later, never took it back." "So you stayed angry," James said, "to prove you weren't weak." "I stayed strong." "There's a difference." "Is there?" James walked beside him. "Strong people don't have to prove anything. My mama is the strongest person I know, and she never raised her voice to anyone." Mitchell's phone buzzed. "Dr. Yamamoto," he answered on speaker. "Mr. Harrington, we've found a potential lung donor for Mrs. Porter. Excellent match. We could do the transplant within 48 hours. James grabbed Mitchell's hand, squeezing tight. "How much?" Mitchell asked. "Approximately $2 million. "Do it," Mitchell said without hesitation. "Whatever she needs. Money is no object." "This woman was given weeks to live before you intervened. What you're doing, it's extraordinary." Mitchell looked down at James, who was crying openly now. "Thank you," James whispered. "Thank you, thank you, thank you." Without thinking, Mitchell knelt and pulled the boy into an embrace. James clung to him, shaking with sobs, and Mitchell felt something crack open in his chest. The wall he'd built around his heart suddenly had a fissure running through it. "You're going to have your mother," Mitchell said quietly, "for a long time. And you're going to heal too. I promise." James put his hand on Mitchell's chest. "You already are healing. You just don't see it yet." The surgery took 11 hours. Mitchell found himself in the hospital waiting room, a place he'd never imagined sitting. James sat beside him, legs swinging, too nervous to eat. Finally, Mitchell went to the vending machines and returned with crackers and juice. "You need to eat. Your mother wouldn't want you making yourself sick." James nibbled the crackers reluctantly. "Mr. Harrington, can I ask you something?" "What? Do you have anyone? Like family or friends who care about you?" Mitchell considered lying. "No, not really. I have employees, business associates, but no one who cares." "That's sad. It's practical. Emotions complicate things." "Maybe," James said, "but my mama says nothing matters if you don't have anyone to share it with." They sat in silence. Mitchell made calls, rescheduled meetings, but his mind wasn't on business. It was on the woman fighting for her life in surgery. Finally, Dr. Yamamoto emerged, smiling. "The surgery was successful," she told James. "Your mother came through beautifully. She's going to be okay." James hugged the doctor, then hugged Mitchell with equal enthusiasm. Mitchell stood frozen before awkwardly patting the boy's back. After Dr. Yamamoto left, Mitchell made excuses to leave, but James grabbed his hand. "Don't you want to meet my mama? This was a business arrangement. It's complete." "No," James said firmly. "You helped us, now I help you. That was the deal. And besides, you're going to be part of our family. I can feel it." "James, I don't do family." "Maybe you should start." 4 hours later, James pulled Mitchell down the hallway to Rebecca's room. Rebecca lay in the hospital bed, oxygen tubes in her nose, but her eyes were clear and alert as James burst in. "Mama!" James scrambled onto the bed carefully. "My sweet boy," Rebecca said, her voice hoarse but strong. She held him close, tears streaming. "The doctors said you saved me." "I found Mr. Harrington," James said proudly, gesturing to Mitchell frozen in the doorway. "He paid for everything. He saved you." Rebecca looked at Mitchell, and he felt exposed under her gaze. She was younger than he expected, with warmth in her face that made her beautiful. "Mr. Harrington," she said softly. "I don't have words to thank you." Mitchell stepped in reluctantly. "No thanks necessary. James and I have an arrangement." "An arrangement," Rebecca repeated, something flickering in her eyes. "I see." "Mama, I can heal him," James said excitedly. "Like Grandma taught me, but he's really sick inside, not just in his body." "James," Rebecca said gently, "that's not polite." "But it's true," Mitchell said before he could stop himself. "Your son sees things other people miss." "He's always been that way," Rebecca said. "My mother had the gift too. James has it even stronger." "Gifts aren't real," Mitchell said flatly. "There's usually a logical explanation." "And what's your explanation for what James did to your hand?" Mitchell flexed his fingers unconsciously. The tremor was still diminished. "Placebo effect." "You don't believe that." Rebecca struggled to sit up, and Mitchell found himself adjusting her pillows without thinking. "Thank you," she said, surprised. "You should rest. You just had major surgery." "But first, I need to understand something." Rebecca studied him. "Are you expecting James to cure you? Because James can help you, but he can't cure you if you don't do the work yourself. The healing has to come from inside you. James can only show you the door. You have to walk through it." "That sounds like mystical nonsense." "Does it?" Rebecca held his gaze. "Or does it sound like something you don't want to hear because it requires you to change? To let go of whatever you're holding on to so tightly that it's killing you? You don't know anything about me." "I know you're alone," Rebecca said quietly. "I know you have all the money in the world and no one to share it with. I know you're dying and you're angry about it, but mostly you're scared. And I know my son sees something in you worth saving, so I'm inclined to believe him." Mitchell felt stripped of all defenses. "Your son has an overactive imagination. My son has a gift for seeing truth. And the truth is, Mr. Harrington, you need us as much as we need you, maybe more." "I need no one." "Then why are you still here? You paid for the surgery. You could have left." "Why?" James spoke up. "Because he's lonely, Mama. So lonely it hurts." But he forgot how to let people close. Mitchell turned toward the door. "I should go." "Mr. Harrington," Rebecca called. He stopped. "Thank you. You gave me my life back and gave my son his mother. If you ever want to talk, just talk. My door is open." Mitchell left without responding, but her words followed him home. That night, alone in his penthouse, Mitchell looked at his hands. The tremor was still there. But something else was there too, a warmth he couldn't explain. He thought about Rebecca's words, about doing the work himself, about walking through the door James could show him. And for the first time in 3 years, Mitchell Harrington allowed himself to cry. Not angry tears or bitter tears, these were different. These were tears of grief for all the years he'd wasted, for the relationships he'd destroyed, for the humanity he'd sacrificed. He cried for the boy he'd been, the one who'd wanted to be a doctor to help people before his father crushed that dream. He cried for his mother. And he cried because a desperate 8-year-old and his dying mother had seen through his armor and offered him something he'd never expected, a chance to heal. Not just his body, but his heart. The sessions with James began the following week. Dr. Yamamoto set up a monitoring station equipped with every diagnostic tool. Mitchell wanted proof, data, something concrete to explain what James was doing. But the equipment showed nothing unusual. Yet every time James touched Mitchell, the warmth came and symptoms temporarily eased. "This is impossible," Dr. Yamamoto said after the 3rd session. "There's no scientific explanation." "Then we're not looking hard enough," Mitchell insisted. "Or maybe science doesn't know everything," James said from the examination table. "Science knows what can be measured." "Can you measure love?" James asked. "Can you weigh hope?" "Love is oxytocin and dopamine." "If that's true, why did you cry when my mama said thank you?" Mitchell froze. "I didn't." "Yeah, you did. I saw it in your eyes." James hopped down. "It's okay to feel things, Mr. Harrington. It doesn't make you weak." Dr. Yamamoto left to give them privacy. "James, I appreciate what you're trying to do, but you can't fix me." "I'm not trying to fix you. I'm trying to help you remember who you were before all the bad stuff happened. Before you decided being strong meant being alone." James took Mitchell's hands. The warmth flooded through him, but this time it came with images. Memories he'd buried, his mother reading to him, his excitement on his first day of medical school, a girl he'd loved before driving her away, the moment he got his diagnosis and realized he had no one to call, all the moments he'd chosen safety over connection, protection over love. When James released his hands, Mitchell sat in silence. Then he did something he hadn't done since childhood. He pulled James into a hug. "It's going to be okay," James whispered. "You just have to let yourself feel things again." "I don't know how." "Then I'll teach you. That's what friends do." "Friends," Mitchell repeated. The word felt foreign. "Yeah, friends. Me and you and Mama, and friends help each other." Over the following weeks, Mitchell found himself visiting the hospital not because he had to, but because he wanted to. He'd sit with James, helping with homework. He discovered he enjoyed explaining math concepts and discussing books. Rebecca's recovery progressed beautifully. Within 6 weeks, she was discharged. Mitchell arranged for her to move into a comfortable apartment in a building he owned. Rebecca insisted on paying rent. "I'll pay market rate. James and I stand on our own feet." "What if market rate for this building happens to be very reasonable?" Mitchell countered. Rebecca gave him a look that suggested she knew exactly what he was doing, but she accepted. Mitchell started visiting their apartment several times a week, bringing dinner, listening to James's school stories, hearing Rebecca's thoughts on books she was reading. And slowly, Mitchell began to change. He laughed more, real laughter. He looked forward to things, simple things that had nothing to do with business. Dr. Yamamoto noticed during checkups, "I don't understand it. By all projections, you should be worse. Instead, you're holding steady, even showing slight improvement in some measures. Maybe James's treatments are working. Maybe, but Mitchell, your cortisol levels have dropped significantly. Your blood pressure improved. You're sleeping better. You have a life, a real life with connections and meaning. There's increasing evidence that psychosocial factors significantly impact disease progression." Mitchell thought about how much had changed, how he actually looked forward to mornings, how he'd started delegating at work to spend time on things that mattered. So James might be right. That healing isn't just about fixing the body, but the heart. I'm saying we've been treating disease like it exists in a vacuum. But what if our emotional state, our connections, our purpose, what if all of that creates an environment that helps or hinders healing? She showed him charts. Patients with strong social connections and purpose consistently show slower disease progression than isolated depressed patients. Mitchell stared at the data, integrative medicine, treating the whole person, acknowledging that humans aren't machines, that maybe an 8-year-old understood something we doctors forgot. That evening, Mitchell sat in what had become his chair in Rebecca and James's apartment. James was doing homework on the floor. Rebecca was reading on the couch. Mitchell was on his phone, but not focused. It was ordinary, almost boring in its domesticity, but it was the most content Mitchell had felt in years, maybe ever. "Mr. Harrington," James looked up. "Why do you still come here? You don't have to." Mitchell set down his phone. "Because I like being here. I like feeling like I'm part of something, like I matter to someone for reasons that have nothing to do with my money." He paused, struggling to articulate it. "For most of my life, I measured success by what I achieved, how much money, how powerful. But being here, it's made me realize I was measuring the wrong things. That maybe the only success that matters is whether you have people who care about you, whether you make a difference. So we're not just research subjects?" "You were never just research subjects." I told myself that because it felt safer than admitting the truth. "What truth?" Rebecca asked. "That you and James saved my life just as much as I saved yours. That I was dying long before my diagnosis. That you taught me what actually matters." "And what's that?" "Connection. Purpose. All the things I thought were weaknesses. Turns out they're the only things that make life worth living." Rebecca walked over and placed her hand on his shoulder. "You're healing, Mitchell, not just physically, but in all the ways that really matter. It's terrifying, caring about people, being vulnerable." "That's okay," James said. "You just have to keep trying. That's how healing works. One day at a time." "That's what families do," James added. "Families," Mitchell repeated, and the word felt right. "Yeah, you're part of our family now. Whether you like it or not." Mitchell's throat tightened. "I like it. I like it very much." 2 years later, Mitchell stood at a ribbon-cutting ceremony for the Porter Harrington Foundation, a non-profit providing medical care and holistic support to families who couldn't afford it. James stood beside him, now 10 years old. Rebecca was there too, healthy and teaching again. Mitchell's tremor was still present, always would be. But his disease had stabilized in ways that baffled doctors. Dr. Yamamoto's research on his case was changing how medicine understood the connection between emotional health and physical healing. "We've helped over 500 families," Mitchell told the crowd. "But more importantly, we've learned something profound. Healing isn't just about medicine. It's about connection, purpose, and hope. It's about treating people as whole human beings." As cameras flashed, James leaned over. "See, I told you that you'd heal." Mitchell smiled. "You were right, I just didn't understand what healing meant." James had promised, "Give me my mother and you'll heal." Both had received far more than they'd bargained for. Mitchell had learned that true strength isn't isolation, it's connection. That healing begins when we stop building walls and start building bridges. He'd spent decades proving his father wrong about weakness. But it took a desperate child to teach him the truth. Opening your heart isn't weakness. It's the bravest thing you can do. The foundation would help thousands. But the real miracle wasn't the money or the medicine, it was that a dying billionaire had learned to live. That an 8-year-old boy had shown him that the most valuable things can't be bought, only received when we have the courage to be vulnerable. And sometimes that's where real healing begins. If this story touched your heart, drop a comment. What does true healing mean to you? Like if you believe connection and purpose can transform lives in ways medicine alone cannot. Share with someone who needs to remember it's never too late to choose love over isolation. Subscribe to Vicky Tale for more stories that remind us what it truly means to be human. Mitchell thought his wealth could buy everything, but it took a desperate child to teach him that the most valuable things, family, purpose, connection, can only be received when we have the courage to be vulnerable. The real lesson? Healing begins when we stop protecting ourselves from life and start embracing it fully.